What's going on, guys? In this video we're going to talk about what I dose, how I dose it, and answer a couple of questions that people usually ask. So let me go ahead and take you guys back in time for a minute. When I first started and all I had in the tank was fish, I was maintaining the tank doing about a 15% water change weekly using Instant Ocean. Once I was able to finally put some lights over the tank and started adding coral to the tank, I switched over to reef crystals, which is the next question I get asked a lot. What type of salt do I use? And reef crystals is the salt I've used ever since. Now, once I got bit by the coral bug and started filling up the tank with coral, I've noticed that my demand for calcium, alkalinity, wasn't keeping up with weekly water changes. That's when I started experimenting with dosing, and I started using BRS's 2-part dosing. Throughout that first year into the hobby, I then got introduced to the Triton method by one of the members of a Facebook group that I'm part of. At that moment, the Triton method wasn't really known here in the US. They were slowly introducing it and talking about it at reef shows. I made a video showing the whole process of the Triton method, and it's funny because when I first did that video, I got a lot of negative commenting on people saying how the method was not possible. How was I telling people that you didn't have to do water changes? My tank was going to be the tank of death. All these negative comments, and it's funny because once the method got well known here in the US and a lot of the bigger channels like BRS and other channels started showing the method and talking about it, it's funny because the same people that used to talk crap about it are now the ones that are loudly and proudly saying how they don't do water changes and how the method is so good. Which comes to the next big question I get asked a lot: am I still using the Triton method? And the answer is no. I only used it for approximately about 6 months. Once I was done with the bottles, I never purchased them again. I only have experience with the base elements. A little bit after I left the method, they came out with their core line. But yeah, I have no complaints on the method. You can go ahead and check out the video if you're interested on how to use it using the base elements. But yeah, I just never repurchased bottles because I did have leftover solutions from my previous 2-part dosing. So after the Triton method, I did go back to 2-part dosing. I went back to BRS soda ash, and the reason why is because I like how their solution mix is nice and clear, but I'm using the pharmaceutical ingredients. And then I went with Red Seeds Calcium. Why Red Seeds Calcium? Well, Red Sea has a program that's based off of calcium consumption. So what I like about it is that along with your calcium solution, you get strontium and barium added in the mix. Now, in addition to that, I'm also dosing potassium, iron, iodine, and the biometric trace elements D. So these are also dosed based off of calcium consumption. So the way you dose them is for every 10 mLs of the Red Sea calcium that you use, you're gonna dose 1 ml of each bottle. So in this case, I am currently dosing about 40 mLs of the Red Sea calcium. So that puts me at about 4 mLs for each bottle daily. Now, I'm not currently dosing the recommended amount. I'm dosing half of that, so I'm currently dosing 2 mLs of each bottle, and the way I'm dosing it is every other day. So for example, I'll go ahead and dose today 4 mLs of each bottle, so that would cover my next day's dose. That way I only have to dose every other day. Now, the only one I am dosing daily is the potassium, and I'm dosing about 3 mLs daily. I found this to be the dose to keep my potassium at around 410 ppm. Now, the iodine is one that I'm only dosing twice a week.
Since I'm not really testing for it, this is one element you wanna underdose. If you ever overdose iodine, you can potentially nuke your tank. Now Red Sea also has the test kits for you to be able to test for iodine and iron, but since I'm going off the calcium consumption, I don't really see the need to be testing for it. However, I do own the test kits, and if anything, I only probably in reality test for these parameters twice or 3 times in a year. Now I could add these to a doser. I am currently running the Comore doser, and it does have the option to add a slave unit with an additional 4 dosing pumps. But when it comes to things like this, I'd rather hand dose. And like I said, guys, it's not really that much of a chore. It doesn't take more than a minute for me to dose these elements. I dose 2 in the morning whenever I feed the fish, and then the other 2 in the afternoon whenever I'm by the tank again feeding the fish. So it's not that big of a deal to hand dose them.
Now another question I get asked a lot is, do I use kalkwasser? Now kalkwasser is something I don't have any type of experience with. I know a lot of people use it to keep up their calcium and alkalinity. But in my case, whenever my tank wasn't keeping up with water changes, I just went straight to dosing. I didn't mess around with kalkwasser. I've heard a lot of horror stories, especially with people that use it on their auto top off. Not only that, but I've heard it's also a bit messy and harsh on your equipment. Now also, by just using kalkwasser, you're not going to be able to individually control your parameters. So for example, I've seen people that have been trying to increase their calcium just using kalkwasser, and next thing you know, their alkalinity is off the roof. But yeah, in my opinion, I've never seen the need for it. I think the best thing is just go straight to dosing.
Now the next question I get asked a lot, and this one is a highly debatable question, is why dosing and not a calcium reactor? Now I think calcium reactors are great, but when it comes to simplicity and ease, I think dosing is the way to go. Now I know a lot of calcium reactor users are going to say, oh, but you have to be messing around with mixing solutions and refilling jugs. Well, that's pretty much the only thing you can say about it. If that's the case, you can always get yourself a 1 gallon or 5 gallon container, and you would have solution for months. Now I don't even really have anything close to a gallon, and my solutions usually last me about a month. Now a calcium reactor is not a said and done deal. You still have to mess around with it. You have to buy media, rinse the media, you have to refill your CO2. Not to mention you have to fiddle around with bubble counts and effluent rate. They are just a lot harder to get honed in at the beginning. Now I know that nowadays it's a lot easier to use it because people are implementing the Comore dosing pump, the continuous dosing pump. But now if you think about it, you're implementing a dosing pump. So you're still using a dosing pump now. You're adding an extra piece of equipment that you now have to keep an eye on as well. Now I've already seen videos of people complaining that the pump does get noisy after a time, especially if you have it under your main display tank where you're going to be listening to it all the time. Now another thing we know is also that calcium reactors tend to mess with your pH and lower it. And yes, I know there is solutions for that, but that is just something you don't have to worry about with dosing. Now with a calcium reactor, you also don't really have individual control of your parameter. Now let's say for example you're somebody that wants to run your calcium a little bit higher. You're not going to be able to do it without affecting your alk. Now it's possible to still achieve that, but then again, now you're going to see yourself on top of using a calcium reactor. Now you're going to have to be adding some type of buffer to increase your calcium and not affect your alkalinity. Now with the dosing method, it's just really simple. All you have to do is just, if you want to run your calcium a little bit higher, just increase your calcium dosage, and vice versa. If you want to run your alkalinity a little bit higher, all you have to do is just up your dose on your alk.
But yeah, guys, in no way this is to bash calcium reactors. They are great and they work. It's just that in my opinion, when it comes to simplicity and ease, I think dosing is the way to go, especially for the beginner reefer. So having that said, I don't think either dosing or a calcium reactor is the secret to success. You can achieve great results with either method. It just really comes down to how you want to run your tank and what you think is the easiest for you. Well, that's about it for this video, guys. Hopefully I have answered a couple of the most common questions that I get asked a lot, especially in regards to how I'm managing the tank and what I'm dosing. I know it's been a while since I posted up a video. It's just, to be honest, I have lost some motivation on doing videos. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to do a video for you guys in regards to how I'm running my sump, how I control phosphates, nitrates, give you guys an update on the Marine Pure that I've been running now for approximately about 5 years, and the different types of methods that I've used. So it should be an interesting video. But yeah, guys, if you've enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And as always, keep reefing simple.